Hello, my name is Hans Hanley, and I'll be presenting the work No Calm in the Storm, Investigating QAnon Website Relationships. QAnon is a far-right conspiracy theory that started in 2017, growing from a fringe internet theory into a massive political movement. QAnon alleges that a cabal of satanic cannibalistic pedophiles control American politics and media. The movement has a proclivity towards violence, which peaked on January 6, 2021, when its followers joined in the insurrection attempt at the US Capitol. Many platforms, including Google, YouTube, Twitter, and Reddit, among others, have taken steps to curb the spread of the QAnon conspiracy theory. In this work, we ask the question, what is the role of QAnon on the internet? How has QAnon evolved over time? And finally, what can QAnon tell us about the rest of the internet? To do this, we utilize web crawling and the resultant hyperlink graph to shed light on the online QAnon ecosystem. We first curate the largest list to date of 324 websites connected to the QAnon conspiracy theory. We then measure these websites' popularity over time. Finally, we analyze these websites' connection to both mainstream media and misinformation news. To build our list of 324 unique QAnon-connected websites, we first crawled two hotbeds of QAnon content, Acun and Vote. We utilize the intuition that websites often hyperlink to semantically similar sets of websites. Using the overlap coefficient node similarity metric to identify QAnon candidate websites, we gather a list of probable QAnon websites from the list of websites linked to by Acun and Vote. Manually verifying each, we curate a final set of 324 unique QAnon-connected websites. Among these websites, we identify 5 different types of QAnon website. 29 Q-drop websites, which store canonical information about the QAnon conspiracy theory. 196 Q news and research sites, where users can download, read about, and interact with QAnon content. 23 sites that produce QAnon entertainment, sell QAnon merchandise, or otherwise profit from the conspiracy theory. 14 websites that operate as QAnon social media websites, and finally 62 non-US focused QAnon websites that export the conspiracy theory abroad, with Germany, France, and Japan each having the most websites dedicated to them. Looking at the number of QAnon websites in the Alexa Top Million list over time, we find that their popularity largely correlates with the actions of social media companies like Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. While we do not perform any causal analysis, we observe several course trends in the popularity of QAnon over time, with the conspiracy theory's popularity peaking in the aftermath of the January 6 US Capitol attack. Looking at the hyperlink connections of QAnon websites to other types of websites, we find strong ties between QAnon websites, misinformation sites, and platforms known for hosting abusive content like Free Republic, American Thinker, and BitChute. Creating a larger list of misinformation and mainstream news from previously curated lists from open sources and PolitiFact, we then scrape each of these websites in turn to identify their connection to QAnon. We find that mainstream websites rarely link to QAnon-related websites, in contrast to misinformation sites that often do. In our dataset, misinformation websites have a connection to an average of 4.5 QAnon websites, while mainstream news sites have a connection to only 0.8. Given that misinformation websites tend to have strong hyperlink connections with QAnon websites, while mainstream news websites rarely do, we demonstrate how this key insight can be used to improve approaches that identify misinformation. We train a random forest classifier based on features of whether domains have hyperlink connections to QAnon websites in order to later label these domains as misinformation or mainstream news. Combining these hyperlink connection features with features derived from each domain's infrastructure, we achieve an AUC, or area under the curve, of 0.88 on a test set. This illustrates how the relationships between websites and QAnon domains can be used to pinpoint misinformation on the internet. Our work shows that aggressive actions by social media companies correlated with large downswings in QAnon's popularity. It further shows how web crawling and hyperlink graph analysis can lead to a better understanding of conspiracy theories and online misinformation. Given that QAnon websites are much easier and less controversial to label than misinformation websites, we find that they can be utilized to help identify other political misinformation. We hope that our results can help platforms curb the spread of QAnon, as well as provide a robust methodology for studying misinformation going forward.